project with Ibu. I don't want to go back to what Philip already said and what Martin said. I just want us to go straight to the findings of this research that we did in northern Uganda. So Martin already said our project is titled how policies and strategies that have been formulated in our country and even others affect access and use of ICTs and assistive technology by persons with disabilities. So usually sometimes we don't want again to give that title to the report. We want to come up with another title, but which comes from the findings that we got when we did the research. So we felt that from the data that we gathered, this would be an appropriate title because we are trying to open the doors for persons with disabilities to be able to be included in whatever other people are able to do. So that is why we have opening the door to possibilities for persons with disabilities. So the overall objective of our study was to understand how ICT policies and strategies affect access and use of ICTs and assistive technology by persons with disabilities in Uganda. The study was conducted in 4 districts in Acholi region. That is Gulu, Moya, Padel, and Omoro. And then we collected the data from 373 persons with disabilities aged between 18 years and above. And we used mixed methods in data collection. So we had one-on-one interviews, and then also we had interviews with stakeholders in form of informal interviews, and we interviewed some of you who are here. That's how we managed to know that, oh, they are involved in ICT and assistive technology for persons with disabilities. And so we gathered the data from all those stakeholders. And then so among the people that participated, the persons with disabilities, of course we had both male and female, and those are the percentages that composed our study population. 46% were female, and then the males were 54%. And in terms of education, we found out that most of them have acquired or have attained primary level education. Most of the persons with disabilities we interviewed. And so you can see there's and something like that. So, and then we see formally employed at 9%. We see we had students that we interviewed in our sample. The self-employed one at 27%. The self-employed ones included those who have their own businesses, and then we have informal or casual employment, which is at 15%. And then about the types of disabilities that we had in our sample, 61.4% reported physical impairment with limited use of limbs, 15.3% had hearing impairments, 14.2% had visual impairments, while 5.1% had intellectual and disabilities, and 3.2% had learning disabilities. So the highest still remained 61.4%, which were physical impairments in terms of loss of limited use of the limbs, the hands, the legs, the feet. Yeah. And then when we look at how available ICTs and assistive devices on the Ugandan market, so this is what we were told, this is how we responded. So these are what were readily available and what they knew about. And we see the radios scoring, the smartphones scoring highest actually at 54%. And then we see the radio coming next at 47%. So again, to take you a little back, so most of them were not aware of the readily available assistive devices, so which is 69% were not aware. And then, so that is why you see most of these, like the Braille, it has 5%, white cane has 7%, the wheelchair 11%. So they largely knew about the ICTs in terms of the radio, in terms of the smartphone, they knew about the television, and then the computer. But the assistive devices, the knowledge is still very low. And then we also asked them about use of these ICTs and assistive devices in the last 12 months. We believe that when we go beyond the 12 months, there will be a recall bias. So someone may not easily know whether they have used or not, so we had to stick to the 12 months. And among these, still you can see the ICTs, the score highly can see. The radio was highly used, 76%. And then we see the feature phone. So the feature phone is the community phone, the Katochi, which is at 40%. And then we see the smartphone and the computer, they have the same percentage at 30%, and then television 29.5%. And you see again, just like what Martin already says about previous results from other partners that have done similar studies, internet is very low internet use at 15% for that very big number of 373 participants. And then when we also asked about use of assistive technology in the last 12 months, so the other ones were ICTs and this is assistive technology. So the highest scoring was the hearing aid at 11%. And this was attributed largely to the fact that the government of Uganda had distributed hearing aids in the areas where we did our study. So that is why we have the hearing aid at 11%. And then the recorder is known because some of them have the recorder on the phone, so they are able to use that. And then we see, so look at these others. The slate and stylus is at 5%, and these are assistive devices that are really very important, that would be part and parcel of someone who is visually impaired to be able to access services, yeah? But you can see the slate and stylus, which would enable them to communicate in terms of writing, is at 5%. The screen reader is at 2%. The Braille translator is at 2%. The parking smart Braille is at 1.2%. So really the numbers are still low, and this is where we'll be struggling to see, to work and see that these numbers can be raised. Maybe in the next many years when we go back to do a similar thing, we want to see that we are some percentage, 70%, maybe the lowest can be 10%, that would be a very big achievement. So we also asked them about policies and strategies. There's an ICT policy here in Uganda, if they know about it, and other strategies that have been put by the government of Uganda, because the Ministry of Education has some strategies to enable persons with disabilities to be able to use ICTs and assistive technology to acquire education, as well as the Ministry of Gender has also put some forward, the Ministry of ICT, UCC, NITA, so many stakeholders have put forward some strategies to enable access and use. So we wanted to know, do they know about them? Because these strategies are there to help them to access. They are able to help, they are there to help them to be able to use. And just like Phil said, it is their human right to use these policies. It is their human right to use these strategies, and that's why the government puts them there, that they are able to have their human rights and enjoy them in totality. So most of them say they do not know about these strategies and policies. So that is 69%. And then only 2.7% say they know about some policies and some strategies. So some mentioned about the ICT policy, some had come across the draft ICT policy for persons with disabilities 2017, and then some other strategies that have been put in place by the ministries I talked about. So we can see, however, also the Ministry of Education has, and gender, they did some sensitization about policies. So maybe you could find, which was an indication in our study, that maybe the areas also where we implemented, they hadn't reached them to make them aware about the policies and strategies that are in existence to help them access and use ICTs and assistive technology. And so we also looked at the barriers, what is hindering them from accessing and utilizing ICTs and assistive technology. So number one, the highest was prices. Prices of assistive devices, prices of assistive technology, prices of ICTs are high. So I know we have a service provider in the house. They will be able to talk more and expound on this, since they handle these things and they sell them out, they buy them. So I know all of us here know, and you will agree with me, that they are expensive. And remember, in our data we showed that the level of employment among our sample was very low. So meaning there is an issue with affordability, yet the need is there. Yeah. So the other barrier is lack of knowledge and information about available devices. So we found out that most of them, they do not know, just like how I showed you, could see that their knowledge of the available devices is low. So lack of knowledge, so it is hard for someone to go and buy what they do not know about. Yeah? So they need to know, and then they can buy. Even if they do not have the financial capability at the moment, but if they have knowledge that, oh, I need a screen reader to be able to read this, so at least they will be knowing. So at one point they can begin saving little by little, and they will be able to get that.